Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is James Rolling, and this is my first ServiceNow tutorial, and we're going to be covering on how to create an activity feed with work notes and custom comments on any table. And I worked collaboratively with David Johnson. Big shout out to Dave. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. If you're familiar with incident management, I'm going to go ahead and show you. So here we have our activity feed. It's a nice, pleasant view of looking at our additional comments and our work notes. And if you're not clear on which is which, we can just go over that real quick as well. Additional comments, as you remember, are customer facing. Generally, they trigger a notification, which usually ends up in an email. So if I want to say, hello, customer, how are you? I can. I post, and it'll keep track of here. And if I had email turned on, you would see the email in there as well. And the same goes for the work notes. I did some work on this, but I don't need the customer to see that, and ACL protects that. We have different views in here. You can have these side by side, or you can have them merged and use a checkbox to clean it up. Now I have a use case where I could use this on the computer form under CIs. I might have an attachment, or I might have comments, things that are, vendor facing, or I only want internal employees to see or the asset owner to see. So I wanted to duplicate that. I wanted to bring that over to that. So that's what we're going to cover today on how to do that. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to make sure that we enable auditing for the table that we're going to be doing this on. And for this case, it's going to be the CMDB CI. So we're going to go into system definition, go to dictionary. Go. Now, just to save time, I had already turned this on because there are a lot of extended tables that it has to go on to, but just so you see how I did it. So if you go over here under audit, I have it set to true. Now out of box, it's off. Another way to do it is you can go ahead and open the record, and you can do it from in here as well. So it's right here. Now once we've got that turned on, we're going to want to do this, and this is my preference because I don't want to have to do this part over and over again or relate it between a global activity versus what's on the CMDB or whatever application you decide to put this on. So I'm going to do it at the root level. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the CMDB CI, and I'm going to do .do because that's going to open up a new form for me so we can configure it. We're going to go. Again, you can do this from form design, or you can do this from form layout. My personal preference is form layout. I like the functionality of it, I like the compactness of it. So we're going to create us a new tab. Now, something to note, even though you add it here, it's not necessarily going to show up on all your extended tables. You may see it on this form, but you're not generally going to go to this form for anything asset related. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's kind of a placeholder. So here we're going to add the activities filtered. That was that field we were looking at. It's nice. Now we are going to need to create a journal type. Now keep in mind there are three different types of journals. There's journal, journal input, and journal list. Journal is going to be two ways. You're going to see a field edit on your form, which is going to stay outside of the activity feeds, but it's also going to be in your activity feed as well. So if you have a use for that, great. In my case, I do not. So I'm going to go with the journal input. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep all my updates from these two fields into the activity feed, which is where I want it to go. So we're going to go ahead and select journal input. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stick to the same naming convention that ServiceNow does, which is very nice, just for simple sake. Now, because I am creating my own field, I know that my value is going to be U underscore and then the words you chose for your field. So that's something to keep in mind. Keep that in the back of your head when you're naming these, because you're going to have to remember them. So we're going to do additional comments. We're going to go ahead and add that. Let's go ahead and put this down below, and we're going to go ahead and save. Now this might take a while again because it's going to have to go down to the extended tables and create those relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and put this as a pausing point, and I'll speak to you in just a moment. Great. Okay, so we're back, and we're just at that very little bit. So you see we're getting all those extended tables, getting them taken care of. And one thing to keep in mind is you are going to be between two scopes when you're doing this. For me, it's going to be CMDB Workspace and Global, because those are the scopes I'm working in. Now, because I've already had this in my instance, there's one step in the CMDB Workspace that I may not have to go over. But if you leave a comment, I'll be happy to help you get through that. It's not difficult. It's just a small step. So great. We have our fields here. Now let's go into the system properties. Actually, I apologize. We're not ready to go to the properties. We're going to go to the computer form because that's where I want to use it first. So there's multiple ways of doing this. You can do table name.list, or you can just simply type in computers and find it from there. So we're going to go ahead and use Annie for our form. And we're going to go into form layout. Again, we're going to create that tab, that section. Make sure we put the activity filtered in there. And our additional comments. See, remember what I was saying, when we have it at the beginning, it'll already be there for you to use. All right, so now we need work notes. All right, great. Let's go ahead and give that a save. So now, we have all the fields that we need. However, if you notice, it looks different. And I'm going to tell you why that is in just a moment. We need to tie these two in together. Now, generally, you would just want to edit the filter activity. Well, we can't do that yet because there's no relation to it. This is in a global application, and this is going to be on your CMDB. So we need to make those relations. And to do that, we need to go into the system properties list. And we're going to be looking up the glide UI for the activity fields. So we're going to go glide.ui. And again, we were on the CMDB computer table, so let's go ahead and get there. Computer. And there we have activities. So we can go into here. Now, because I've already done this, I'm not going to have to do the extra step. But what would happen is if you would try to edit this field and add your values here, it's going to require you to enter a suffix. And all it's going to do is create a new entry to create that relationship. But it's also going to write in this record as well. So when you do that, you can go back and delete it. It's up to you. I personally went ahead and deleted it because I no longer needed it. But because I had already done it, it allowed me to continue working in just the global scope. So at this point, I'm just going to type in my fields, again, starting with a U because it was user created. So we have our U_work_notes. Make sure you type it correctly so that it finds it. And there are no spaces in between the commas or the field values. So just keep that in mind. U_additional comments. Okay, that looks good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and update. Added the values. So now we're going to go ahead and now we're going to go back to our form. And now we're going to get to use the built-in widget. We're going to go ahead and come down here to the filter activity. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom. And these are all items that are already on the form and related that we can report here in the activity field. So we're going to scroll way to the bottom and we're going to go to configure available fields. Okay, we've got additional notes and work notes in there. Back over. Okay, and now you see we have, looks pretty close, but it's not quite there. We do have our fields, we do have our options to go back and forth, but let's give this a test. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to do both at the same time. So, hey customer, I've done the work to this for you. Okay, and then this is the work. This is the work I did, or whatever you need to put in there. So we're going to go ahead and post there. And here we have it showing up. So this is great. Now, for me personally, I want my eyes to jump so I can go exactly what is external, what is internal, what do I need to look at this. So I'm going to go to that extra step and I'm going to change the color because as we saw in the incident form, we had yellow and we had gray or transparent to differentiate between those two fields to make it easier on the eyes so we can just go to it. We don't have to read every field. It's all about making the process easier. So in order to do that, we're going to need to navigate back to the system properties. And we're going to go to the activity stream style. And the name of that is going to be glide.ui, because again, we're using the user interface. You can just type in activity. Now we see here, you have down here the activity stream style comments. And look at that, gold. So it wasn't actually yellow. That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and steal this. I'm going to go in there and utilize some of the tools that we have available to us, make my life easier. Since we did use the same notation, I'm going to go ahead and add a U underscore. You know what? I'm going to make this blue because blue is my favorite color, and I like that. So, and I want to make the description stand out and be different. This is it's going to be the CMDB work note style, right? So make sure, and it's important not to just save or update. You want to insert. Okay, so this is going to create a copy without overwriting the one that was there before. And just to confirm, again, there I have the one I just created and the one that was out of the box. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to comments. And transparent's nice and all, but I just want to add a little flair to it just for show. Additional comments, activities, CMDB to differentiate. And you know what? Let's go green. Green's a nice color. Okay, again, remember, we don't want to save or update. We want to insert, so we're making a copy of it. That way we can save ourselves a little bit of legwork there. Now the fun part. We can go back to our form that we were working on and have a look at it. There you go. So we see here we have our work notes are now blue and our additional comments are green. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining in with me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave a comment. You can always email me at james.rolling@gmail.com, or you can go to my LinkedIn page. I am also on the Slack channel as well. So again, thank you for tuning in. Have a nice day.